All
Okay.
right. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what the mornings look like at camp. And I want to break it into two things. The mornings normally, which most of you have a general sense of, and then the mornings during COVID, which is what we're going to call the first week of each session, because it's going to look a little different for that first week. So you guys know that day one, everyone that comes in is going to get a nasal swab. So you guys and all of the campers, we're going to do a second nasal swab on day 5. That's how we're kind of creating our bubble. We know that there is no COVID in camp by day 5. We know that everyone there is clean, and then we can kind of just go back to normal because we're feeling very secure that no one's going to bring it in because no one's going to be leaving. And again, that also may change second session. But for first session, this is how we're going to do it. So on a normal morning, you know, the bugle revelry goes off at 7 a.m. Get the kids up, make sure that they've brushed their teeth, getting ready for the day, putting on clean clothes, deodorant, all that fun stuff. And then you usually head to the colors line, right? The lines in front of the flagpole so that we can do flag raising. From flag raising, we usually walk down to the chapel and we do our morning passwords, right? We pray to nature, thank the universe that we're all here enjoying this beautiful space together. From there, we walk into the dining hall and we start our meals. That is going to be probably what's going to happen weeks 2 and 3 of session 1. We're hoping to get completely back to normal, back into the dining hall, eating all together. I don't want to promise anything. We don't know what exactly is going to happen that far along, but that's kind of our hope and our wish. For week 1, though, things are going to look a little different. Bless you, Tommy. We are asking all LITs and campers to bring their own folding chair to camp. Staff members we're providing a folding chair for, but those folding chairs are going to stay in the cabin with you. So as normal, revelry is going to go off at 7 a.m. You're going to wake up, make sure they're brushing teeth, putting on their clean clothes, putting on their deodorant, getting ready for the day, and grabbing their folding chair. Now, when we go to the colors line, it's not going to be one straight line where we all stand shoulder to shoulder and we do the dress right dress as we raise the flag. It's basically going to be sectioned off by units. So if the flagpole is directly in front of you, to your left is going to be the middler unit, in the middle is going to be the junior unit, and to the right is going to be the senior unit. Still standing in line so that we still look uniform and we're still doing our tradition of dress right dress all together, but it's going to be separated by units, and there's going to be about 6 to 8 feet between each unit. Because again, we're just being extra super ridiculously cautious about the possibility of COVID transfer. From there, we are not going to do password for the first week of camp, or at least not in the traditional sense of it being down in the chapel. You're going to take your chairs, and each unit is going to be designated an area to be eating meals. So the juniors are going to be eating in the OK Corral. So they're going to go down and they're going to set up their chairs. And then the middlers are going to be eating, I'm trying to remember where we decided to put the middlers. I think the middlers are going to be eating where the green chairs used to be, like where some central staff would have meetings and things like that under the green chairs. There's now picnic tables there, and they'll bring their folding chairs. And then the seniors are going to eat kind of right where everyone eats when we do barbecues, cookout nights. Like right, there's that big bush that's kind of by the Newcomb Court right there. That's where the seniors are going to eat. So you'll bring your chairs down. Then you sit and hang out in those chairs. While you're sitting and hanging out in those chairs, we are going to be doing health checks. No temperature checks, but health checks, just to ask people those like typical COVID questions. I don't know if you've entered any hospitals or anywhere recently where they're like, have you had fever recently, a cough recently, a sneeze, like those types of questions. We need to ask those. And possibly password will happen by unit in those small groupings. While two of those groups, those units are sitting in those chairs waiting, one of the units is going to be called into the dining hall. You're going to go into the main door of the dining hall, but instead of the buffet line being like parallel to like the door entrance, it's going to be completely perpendicular. So you're going to come in and it's going to be cafeteria style. Someone's going to serve you as you walk along. Then you're going to come out the side door, the left side door if you're looking at the dining hall by the OK Corral, and go back to your chairs to eat. And then the next unit will be called through. And then the next unit will be called through. And that's how mealtime is going to kind of work for all of our meals. So that was breakfast, where we do the flag raising first, and then we'll go to our chairs. Chairs will be allowed to be left in those outside areas. If we know it's going to be a rainy day, we'll send kids back during inspection with their chairs. The issue just becomes at lunch, before lunchtime, we need to make sure those chairs are back in those eating areas. What's going to happen is, the bugle's going to go off for lunch and everyone's going to come down. The interesting thing is there's not going to be waiter's call for the first week. We don't need waiters because there aren't tables to set. Everything will kind of be grab and go that first week. So there may be assigned waiters in the cabins for the end of the meal, because there will be a picnic table at each unit's mealtime area, and that picnic table will probably have a busing bucket on it to collect all of the plates and the tray. We're eating off of trays this year, actually. So all of the trays and the silverware and the cups. It will also have pitchers of water on it, and things, and the napkins, the salt, pepper, stuff like that will be on that picnic table. So there'll probably be a waiter at the end of the meal that will help clear, but there won't be a waiter in the beginning of the meal to help set the table during that first week of camp. So when the bugle goes off, probably around waiter's call, maybe a little bit closer to the start of lunch, people will make sure that they have their chairs, go to their areas, and then wait to be called by unit through the dining hall again. Siesta will remain the same. And then we get to dinner, same starting for dinner, no waiter's call, everyone in their chair waiting to go in. There will not be knoll time the first week of camp. Basically, we're changing free swim. Free swim, I think Nat had mentioned this yesterday or the day before, that we're taking away free swim. Basically, the whole afternoon is free swim-ish. Everyone's going to be down at the waterfront, rotating between the swim pier, the boat pier, and then field games down there. And that'll go for like basically 3 hours. So everyone will get about an hour in each of those rotations. And then after dinner, we're going to go straight into like evening program, which would have been free swim activities. So Nat mentioned, this is when the climbing tower will be open. This is when archery will be open. Riflery will be open. But units will be assigned to different sections for evening program for the first week of camp. And evening program will start right at the end of dinner. So no knoll time, straight into kind of evening program that is activities. And again, that's just the first week. Ideally, second week, we're going to get into our normal routine where there is knoll time, and then there is normal EPs, brog games, normal free swim where everyone can kind of wander where they want to go around camp, all of those things. So I know that was really quick. A couple of things I do want to touch upon for meals. So although units will be sitting in areas, cabins still need to sit together in those areas. So if you're in with the juniors and you're in the OK Corral, your cabin will need to sit together in the OK Corral. It is still your responsibility. And we know this from years of research that mealtime is the most ideal time to find out information about your campers. If you see a camper that's not really eating, pushing his food around his plate, you know that there's something wrong. But the only way you can see that is if you're paying attention and you can see your cabin. So this is the time where you're watching out. If you see all the other kids are all kind of talking and joking over something, and there's one kid that's kind of being left out of it, that's your opportunity to jump in there, make friends, get him involved with the group. But you have to be near your cabin and paying attention to your cabin in order for those things to happen. So that's kind of the camper care aspect of it. The more important aspect of it is the medication allergies aspect of it as well. So if you're sitting with your cabin, you will know from those camper concern forms and those camper confidentials that Goose was talking about yesterday, you will know who takes meds. You will know who has allergies. And meal times is your opportunity to be like, okay, this person needed to have their lunchtime meds. Did they get it? Yep. The nurse walked over. I flagged her over. I made sure she knew where we were sitting. He got his meds. Or this kid has an allergy to this. Why is he eating the ice cream? He needs to take his lactate pill. Those types of things. That's why, especially that first week, it's going to be really important that you're sitting with your cabin and you're watching them. Even if you're in folding chairs, which makes it feel a little more relaxed and a little more like a cookout, it's not. The only reason we're outside is because of trying to ensure our bubble and that we don't have any transfer of anything. So it's going to be important for you to be vigilant while you're sitting there. And like I said last night, you are not the only counselor in your cabin. You will have support. The central staff will be sitting kind of all around those three groups. Because normally in the dining hall, if someone needs to use the restroom, they pass right past Nat. Nat says, yes, you can go, or, there's too many people out, hold on a minute, right? We know exactly who's in and out. That won't happen when we're outside. Central staff will be sitting in as strategic as locations as we possibly can be so that we can ensure that people are going to the bathrooms. But a couple of different things. One, during meal times, they have to use their unit bathrooms, which means that we're going to have like juniors walking up and over the knoll into the junior unit to use their unit bathrooms. So central staff is going to be strategically located. There might be a few of us that are sitting up at the top of the knoll to make sure that we can see where people are going. There's going to be a couple of people probably sitting down by the path to the senior waysides, the main gate, but it's going to be a little harder to control. But if we're going to have a camper that's going to try and disappear, really upset, doesn't want to be around anyone, mealtime, especially the first week, is going to be the ideal time for them to do that, because they're not just walking right past like Nat, who's like, as we all know, now that we know him, he's not super intimidating. But for a camper to walk past the director of the camp and decide not to come back, it's a little intimidating. When we're outside, we don't have that intimidation factor. So it's going to be really important that you guys are vigilant and we are vigilant, making sure that we're watching who's coming, who's going, how long they've been gone for. Wow, that kid's been in the bathroom for a really long time. Let me get up and check on him, make sure my co-counselor knows that I'm going to find this kid because he should be back. Either he's got stomach issues that we need to address or he's disappeared. So it's going to be a little challenging the first week to make sure that we've got that control over the campers and just that vigilance so that we know where everyone is at all times and making sure that everyone's okay. Goose, did you have anything to add? Because I think I've exhausted.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. That was terrific. And actually a little helpful for me to kind of visualize it. A couple of tips I want to give you guys, what I'm hearing here just now as a listener. That first week, we talked last night about the camper confidentials and understanding which kids were going to be taking meds, so forth and so on. The reality of it is this, guys, that you're not going to remember everything. You're just not. It's as good a mind as you may have, and you probably have a better mind than I do, because I forget everything. You're not going to remember everything. And so what I would suggest to you is this. Jake Silverman. Anyone here remember Jake? Yeah. I don't know if you ever paid close enough attention, but Jake's trademark move is that he always has in his back pocket a little tiny spiral bound notebook and a pen, and he takes it everywhere with him. And you'll probably hear me talking about it with the staff at some point. That is just my catch-all. And that was something I passed on to him. And most people ignored me when I said, carry around one of those little things, write it down when you see it. because you're going to forget it later, that kind of thing. And he was the one who first started doing it. And once Jake did it, everybody started doing it for a little while. But the concept is that if you've got kids that take meds at meals or have allergies and all of these things, yeah, when we're in the dining hall, the medication normally comes around to the kid, but we don't have that the first week. And I don't know if you've ever caught it when you were a camper, but the nurse is constantly wandering around the knoll trying to find people, and is pulling her hair out trying to find everyone because nobody's sitting where they should be. Same thing happens on Olympic Day, where the nurse is just kind of wandering around the dining hall because everybody's got new seats. So now take that for 3 meals a day for 5 days. And you absolutely will need to be playing a part in helping that kid get connected with the nurse to get their meds. So yeah, when you get the Camper Confidential, definitely get that information down, but I would transfer it to a little tiny pad of paper, spiral bound something. So when you get out to these meals and you're trying to remember who has what allergy in the first 2 days, you're going to have it on day 3 or 4. But also with medications, you can go back and make that little reference. The kid can say, "What are you looking at?" You go, "Nothing, just something to help me remember something with." You don't need to tell them what it is, but it's going to help you remember how to take care of all these kids. And the more years that we do this, the more kids are taking meds. It's just the reality of where we are. More and more people take them. So we've got to be on top of that. I mean, I take Prilosec, and so everybody in camp seems to be on some sort of meds. So we got to make the nurse's life a lot easier by making sure that we have that information. We can't fall down on it. We can't screw that up. We got to be able to do it. It is an absolute nightmare scenario when we start missing meds at meals. Absolute nightmare scenario. Parents start to freak out because letters go home saying, I've been taking this for the last 5 days or whatever. So write all this to say, write stuff down. If you didn't follow what Jess told you tonight, if you didn't fully follow the schedule, the recording's going to come to you tomorrow. And then write it down and watch the recording, because I got news for you. Most of you guys are showing up on the 27th, yeah? Campers are showing up that day. If you didn't internalize this information now, it's going to be too late when you show up, because meals will have started pretty much a couple hours after you arrive. So you got to make sure you understand what this stuff is before you roll it. There it is. That's my 2 cents.
Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, concerns about this?
If you do have questions, you should absolutely ask them. There's some information that's even new to me. So.
Right. And this is an ongoing process, guys. Let me just tell you that Nat and I recreate the policies and procedures pretty much on a daily to hourly basis. And I know that we're being very cautious, especially the first week, and pretty strict about what we're doing. But it is our responsibility. The juniors don't even have the option to be vaccinated. We need to make sure that those little guys are okay. And then there's some people on site who are not vaccinated. There's some staff not vaccinated. So one staff member who's not vaccinated, but I don't know if all the seniors are going to be vaccinated. I don't know if all the middlers are going to be vaccinated. So we really need to be very cautious. And I know that this seems really strict. We do have plans to loosen things if we can. Connor, did you have something?
Yeah, it's just about something you mentioned earlier. So you mentioned if a camper is not engaged in conversation or something, and you said to try to get involved and get them in conversation. How would you go about that without making it weird?
No, that's fine. Yeah, great question. The first thing to do is just talk to them. How you doing? What was your favorite activity today? If it's one of the first meals, you're where are you from? What are your favorite sports? Just engage them first. And then hopefully you're paying attention to the conversations that your campers are having around you, whether you're engaged in those conversations or not. So you're talking to this kid who's kind of left out. He tells you that he's actually a baseball fanatic. You would never know it because he doesn't look like he likes baseball, just from the sight of him. And you had overheard like an hour ago those guys talking about how they love baseball, and you're like, oh, wait a second, didn't you just tell me that you liked baseball? And you kind of can drag people into that conversation. So it's starting the individual conversation and ensuring that you're knowing all your campers. And this is the, to me, the hardest but most important part of your job is to get to know your campers. The more you know about them, the more you can engage everyone in conversations about things, and the more you can kind of make those connections between kids. And that's why people come back to camp, right? Like you can go to any camp and do archery. You can go to any camp and do swimming. You come back to camp because of the people that are at camp. So forming those bonds and those connections are the most important part of camp. And if you can help facilitate that, you're already the best counselor we have. So that would be my suggestion, Connor. And we are going to talk a little bit more about camper care and behavior, and then the opposite side of that, like discipline and things that we have to get into. Great question.
You're playing the long game, Connor. You're not going to be able to fix it like right away. That's something that you got to kind of chip away at that problem. And you're pointing out the problem, of course, that now we're all sitting on separate chairs and so forth. You may have to really invite that kid into a group, like, come on over and sit with us, like drag your chair right over, come on over. I will tell you a little magic trick in, at least speaking in our household, when the conversation starts to run dry, maybe it's at the dinner table or a car ride, randomly somebody will start asking like a pointless, but, philosophical question, like who would win in a fight, the Joker or Lex Luthor, right? It's just totally random and from out of the sky. And sometimes you have to force it a little bit. The younger they are, the funnier the jokes, the questions can get. But, starting with finding out what the kids' interests are, and then forming up group discussion questions like that. I mean, it's hard to do and it seems artificial, but believe it or not, you ask the right question that gets people to go, oh, wow. And suddenly they're off to the races. And it's a pretty useful tool.
Yeah, my kids are super little, so we do would you rather. So like we do a lot of would you rathers, and would you rather eat an entire cake, or like would you rather eat 12 cupcakes, or would you rather eat a gallon of ice cream, and my 5-year-old goes off. But so like I know it sounds silly and like it might be hard, because the best thing I can tell you as a counselor is like, you're cool no matter what you say to these kids. They're going to look up to you no matter what. So be silly, be ridiculous. That allows them to be silly and ridiculous. You're already cool because you're already older and living in the cabin with them. So yeah.
You're also cool because you're not us.
Exactly. You can't be any less cool than we are.
You already got a distinct advantage.
Any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah. So for EPs, you're saying like there's like different things that are open, like the climbing tower. So for the first week, are we not doing like games or whatever? The whole EP is just those things open?
They have to be unit EPs. So there's going to be like kids one unit that would possibly be assigned to like climbing tower, archery, something else, and another unit at riflery and whatever other activities. And then there's going to be one unit that's probably scheduled for the field. And that unit can do, if they want to do mini BROG games based upon their unit, or if they want to do capture the flag, or any sort of EP games, absolutely can happen. That first week have to happen by unit. So it makes it a little more challenging, but it can happen. I don't want to say that we're not going to like be doing any of the cool, fun EPs first week.
Are campers and counselors wearing masks during the first week, or no?
No. Our intention, and part of the reason why I just went through this meal schedule of how we're sitting outside, is that as long as we're outside, then we're completely mask free. Even if there's one unit inside, like say it's a rainy day and we have to eat indoors, one unit will eat in the dining hall, one unit will eat in the library, one unit will probably eat in the barn. You will not have to be masked when you're with your unit inside. If for some crazy reason there's like a massive flood and the only building standing on camp is the lodge and all 3 units have to go in there together, we would have to be masked. But that's really the only time. So as long as you're not crossing over units, as long as we're outside, we are not expecting to be masked at all. That may change. There may be a whole new policy that pops up tomorrow, but right now that's where our thinking is.
It's like writing a rule book on an Etch-a-Sketch. You get that reference. Maybe you don't. I don't know. So,
I got it. Any
I'll
other
take
questions?
that over. Anyhow,
No?
any questions? Okay.
Matt, it's good to see you. These are all recorded. I'm going to stop the recording and let you guys go. And then Goose will send out his reminder tomorrow with the link again, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8 again.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.